Why is it doing that? All right, better late than never. We are Todd and Matt coming to First Pitch Live. Todd, for whatever reason, could not hear me there for the longest time. But let's get right into this real quick. We're dealing with a first pitch frenzy here, Todd. We've got for First Pitch Live. We had opening day yesterday, and it was perhaps the most chaotic day that I can remember in opening day history. I think we had six teams in the top 25 lose. We had several that were minus 200 or higher also lose. What stood out to you yesterday for the most shocking upset? And I kind of laugh because Mount St. Mary's is on here. I probably shouldn't have put them on this graphic because they beat Missouri. Is that really that big of a shocker? Let's get into it though. Who was the most impressive team yesterday that got the win over a top 25 team? We'll start there.
I'll tell you, there's so many. I mean, I put out on social media, it was upsets, close upsets, and grand slams. That was the day yesterday, if you really wanted to cover it. But there was two that really stood out for me. Matt was Louisville going down. I can't believe Michigan State beat them. And then I know Q probably is not too happy this morning with UAB upsetting Florida yesterday. Peterson did not have his good stuff on Friday night. So, but I mean, there were so many. I mean, I was really shocked. Washington State beating Alabama was another one. Oregon State, there was another one. I'm not very high on the Michigan team. And with Whitney on the mound, I think he threw about 5 innings. But we said with the Beavers, maybe a lack of offense. And that was one thing that kind of stood out on Friday for me.
Yeah. So getting into today, we have several games that are still going on as different opponents. They're like, for instance, we've got Globe Life hosting the Shriners Classic. And now Arkansas will take on TCU tonight. That's probably the biggest game of that slate. But overall, I feel like yesterday we kind of saw a lot of what we were all waiting on, and that's teams have been playing each other through spring scrimmages. Let's get out there and see the team. Who stood out to you as the most impressive team yesterday?
Well, one thing I looked at, Matt, was those teams that should have taken care of business and did. I think one was like Texas. Texas did a really good job, jumped out and had the good lead. How about Kentucky? 20 strikeouts, setting a school record. Loved it. Loved everything about. Now we got to keep an eye on the Bell injury. That's one thing to keep an eye on with that. But, LSU in the box score, it looks like they were very impressive, but it took them a while too to really get moving on in that game. But there was so many. I want to see some offenses take off today. Like Auburn was another one I wrote down in my notes that only winning 2-1. Coastal Carolina was one that scored 5, but need to clean it up a little bit. 4 errors yesterday too. So I'm looking for some teams to really get it going today, and I think it's a good matchup day. If you're going to dabble in that kind of action today a little bit, to maybe do some parlays today.
What are you looking at as far as what you like today?
Well, I did an early lean with some teams. I have not officially placed anything yet, but I really, one I wrote down was Vanderbilt. I thought Vandy, that was a great game with TCU. The one guy had 3 home runs for Vandy. I thought their offense kind of came to play. Again, Texas Tech, I just think it's a very strong bounce back spot for them. That's one I was looking at. Also, North Carolina, I know it's a high number. It'd be one I'd be looking to match up, but I just think, again, I think Ryan Lynch is going on the mound. I love this team. I'm very high on North Carolina. And then like we talked about, some of the big favorites, I think Florida, I'm really looking to, you might have to match up with a couple teams because they're, I think, minus 560, but I think that team bounces back. And Oregon State, like I said, I just think Oregon State, Klein Schmidt on the mound today. The offense does scare me a little bit. I just don't know how many times if they're going to score a lot of runs throughout the year. But the pitching matchup, I think, is going to be good. So that's a couple. I mean, if you want to throw some out, I have one or two more I'll add here, but I'll let you go.
Yeah, Arizona, Oregon State is definitely intriguing. You've got Ethan Kleinschmidt going up against Smith Bailey. Arizona lost last night to Stanford in what may have been Rentaro Sasaki's coming out party. Is he back? We were joking in our fantasy baseball group chat that said finally Sasaki is paying off. I wonder how much, though, Arizona's pitching staff is going to be able to stay alive, I guess, long enough for the offense to get going. They put up, I think, 7 runs in a 10-7 loss, but Arizona, it felt like every time you turned around, they were down 3 runs again. I feel like in the Big 12, that'll be fine in this odd ACC game against Stanford. Doesn't make any sense at all. I'm not sure if yesterday was more indicative of Stanford being potentially good or if Oregon State or if Arizona was just bad. I'm very concerned about the Wildcats after game one.
Yeah, a lot of
They were one of
walks.
my picks to win the Big 12.
Yeah, a lot of walks. I have down. I think they had a team total of 7 walks. I mean, that's one thing. And you saw that a little bit yesterday. Teams walking too many guys, a lot of errors. The Wake Forest, there was a key error in that game that kind of cost them some runs. Again, Coastal, that game, that was one I wrote down in my notes too, Matt. Total 7 errors in that game with Fairfield. So, you gotta clean it up a little bit with some of these teams. I like you brought up Stanford, Matt. They played Michigan today, minus 135. I wrote down that's one again. I was impressed by their offense. I thought they played pretty well. Two more I wrote down for early leans, Matt, is Kansas. Kansas lost yesterday. I think that's a good potential bounce back team today. And then Iowa playing Air Force. Air Force with the big win over Penn State last night. A team that brings back majority of their team because they're one of the academies. But I think Iowa, it's a good spot for Iowa today to maybe match it up with somebody and try to get a winner.
Yeah, I also like Kansas. I'm looking at the Arkansas TCU line, TCU plus 140. That seems a little unreasonable. I think Arkansas had a great game yesterday. Gabe Gackle got hit around a little bit early, and then the offense kind of turned on. Ryder Helfrich looks like everything he was expected to be here with 2 home runs in his first 2 plate appearances. But I think the Horned Frogs, I'll probably wait on a run line here, but I think the Horned Frogs are a look at plus 140 or plus 1.5 on the run line. Kansas, a tough loss last night to UTRGV, and I think they bounce back. I think Loa is going for the Vaqueros. I think Kansas will jump on them. But then you go back, Kansas State, UConn, 2 teams I backed yesterday, and then they face off against each other. UConn did not look good against a Nebraska team that I think was up 8-1 at one point. Kansas State, however, looked real good, plated double-digit runs against Iowa, who's known to have a pitching staff. UConn, I guess, is taking a while to thaw out up there. So I'm not understanding this Kansas State being only minus 120. So I'm probably going to be looking back at the Wildcats there.
Yeah, I got another one that I jumped on my notes. I have Southern Miss, higher minus 175. I'd probably try to match it up with somebody. But again, they ran into a really good pitcher yesterday. Flora threw a fantastic game. I think it should be Harris today going for Southern Miss. I kind of like that with only scoring 1 run yesterday. I think the offense will rebound here a little bit, and the home field is always so tough at that stadium. I kind of look for a bounce back in that one today.
Yeah, that was a fun game last night for Jackson. Flora looked really good. UC Santa Barbara actually doing some stuff on offense, and Southern Miss could not figure out how to get runs across, which playing a kid like Flora, that's to be expected. I hope everybody was on that under with me.
Yeah, it
UC
was pretty
Santa
tough.
Barbara, they could take the series today. I don't. Do you know who's pitching for the Gauchos?
I do not. I did not look
I
that up.
will look that up and post it out. But I know you're going to have to go here soon. I apologize for the technical difficulties trying
Hey, it's
to
first show,
be
and it's
on the
early
road.
morning. It's early morning,
None
man.
of
So let's
my
go.
equipment. All right. Anything else you want to touch on before we move on? Louisville being minus 475 today against Michigan State is just asinine. If you
Yeah, you're
can't
gonna.
win
I mean,
with Everly on the mound, and I asked you on our show Thursday night, I said, if I came to you from the future and said one of these teams that are minus 200 or higher lose outright, who would you say? And there were a lot of them. There were a lot of them. And I didn't have the heart to say, I think Florida could. But I said, I think West Virginia losing to Georgia Southern. That didn't happen. But literally could have rolled the dice and found any other one on the board. So I'm going to ask you the same thing. Which one that's minus 200 or higher
oh,
are going to lose outright today? Because you know it's happening. It's college baseball. And then I'll tell you mine because
well, I gotta. You're putting me on the spot. I just jotted
I
down.
know it's tough.
You know,
Sitting here looking through lines right now.
I got to bring up the lines myself. Then I have like what I wrote down. Why don't you give yours?
Well, you took Vanderbilt, didn't you?
I like Vanderbilt. I think it's a good spot today. I think it's a bounce back. I have not. It was an early lean. I'm looking off the kid for Texas Tech. I think it's Perko that's going to pitch.
Yeah.
Coming off a pretty high ERA last year. I just think I liked where Vandy's offense was yesterday. I just think it's a good bounce back. But now I don't like that now with you. I know where you're going here.
No, I'm not gonna pick that one.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna fade Wake Forest again. I think Washington plus 1.5 plus 180 is worth a look. Wake Forest laying minus 240 is just too many. They did not look impressive yesterday. I know it was the first game of the season, but Houston, I think, was in the Diamond Report projected to finish somewhere in the middle of the pack. And they just did absolutely everything they wanted to do to the Demon Deacons. And Washington has been playing a lot better under their new head coach. I think Smith is his last name. I don't know who's going for the pitching staff, but that line, I feel like that's a little bit of an overreaction thinking Wake Forest is going to bounce back. And maybe, just maybe, Wake Forest is not that great of a team this year.
Well, I hope that's not true. I had them as one of my dark horses this year. I think, again, you look at that, it was first game, it was early. You hope a little bit of jitters. I think they bounce back today, but again, that's your call on that. I just think I think that team is going to be a good baseball team throughout the year. But we'll go from there. I don't know, Matt. I mean, really, I didn't dive into some of the real big ones to look at, to take that. Again, I like where my leans are. I feel pretty good. And I just think, again, like what I wrote down, I just think it's a good spot to try to match maybe some of these teams that got an upset. One, East Carolina, I'm going to look at. They had so many times that they had guys on, especially that last inning, bases loaded, a guy standing there taking a strike three. I think that team's going to bounce back today too. And I'm very excited to be down there next week with Q to cover the North Carolina ECU series with that. But But like I said, I want to see some more of these offenses. Another one that was a crazy game yesterday, Matt, I just want to touch on a couple things, was the Clemson only beating Army 3-2. Army's not a bad team in the Patriot and everything, but that was really shocking. It took Clemson a long time to get going. The bullpen was very good. Harrison and Allen came in and threw a bunch of innings for that. But I do want to say one great thing I did see yesterday was the tradition at Clemson with the players that are not playing. They go out of the dugout and up into the crowd and shake hands with the service people. And I thought that was a great thing yesterday. And then the cadets did the same. They brought some of their players out and did that. So what a great tradition there at Clemson.
Yeah, the service academies were looking pretty good yesterday. There was another one I was looking at, Air Force in Iowa. I don't know if Iowa is going to be able to do much in the Big Ten this year, but laying minus 300 against Air Force, that's a look. That's a look for me. But love watching the service academies, sitting next to Mr. Jake McKeever with College Baseball Central. He was showing his support for Army, wanting to purchase an Army jersey. Go full in on the service academies. So you love to see it. As an SEC guy that roots for A&M, I was rooting for him to do that, because anything to not support the Aggies, who actually had a pretty good showing yesterday. I think they put up 15 runs.
Yep.
In a win. Is Mike Early back? Is Texas A&M going to figure it out this year? We'll see. But as of right now, we'll wrap it up with this question. Of all the teams you saw play yesterday, has your national champ changed?
No, I had Texas. Texas a good start. I was a little surprised with the staff. They flipped. I didn't think
Ruger Rojas.
Yeah, Rojas got to start yesterday. But no, I'm very high on Texas. That was a team I picked to win the national championship. I just love the transfers that came in. The kid from Seton Hall with the big home run yesterday too in that game. If the offense is there, I think the pitching staff, the starters, if they can dominate, I think the bullpen's going to be very strong, and I think they got some of the hitting. That was one thing, Matt, with some of these, again, college sports, you have people transferring. It's so tough to even keep up with this. But, you saw that kid from Texas, Robbins, hit a home run. LSU, Zach York, first time up, big home run. Dardar, I think, hit one later in the game. So it's nice to see some of those guys coming into those new teams and jumping on it right away. And I do want to give out one shout out to that kid. I think it's Tice Armstrong, 3 for 4, 3 grand slams, 12 RBIs. I mean, have a day. That's what we're talking about, man. That's how you get some girls on that campus looking at you, my man. Good job.
Yeah, there were a lot of great performances yesterday. You had mentioned it earlier, Colin Barksey for Vanderbilt, 3 home runs. I felt like every time that he stepped to the plate, you started getting ready for another home run. We thought maybe Ryder Helfrich was going to do that too last night until they gave him the Barry Bonds treatment. But a lot of big performances, obviously early on in the season. But I'm not ready to hit the panic button on Oregon State. Even UCLA, I know they won the game, but they didn't look just incredibly great either for being the consensus number 1 overall. But if you don't have anything else, we'll wrap this up.
I got one question I want to throw to you. I wrote down, I know there's some people that are following us now and they're starting to get into this college baseball a little bit, especially maybe throwing a little bit of money down on it. So I got a question for you, because you've been doing this for years now and you've been very successful picking some winners here. Sundays. I want to just pick your brain for a quick second. Sundays, because that's a crazy day sometimes in college baseball. Now, I know yesterday was a little crazy to start the season, but what's your kind of philosophy
felt like a Sunday
on Sundays when you are trying to find some winners? What's your kind of betting, I guess, advice to some of the people that are going to try to do that with Sundays?
It's a good question. I think the first thing I do, and it's a little more difficult when you talking about these round robin tournaments where the opponent changes, but for a couple of them, like UC Santa Barbara, Southern Miss, where they're playing a true series, I always try to handicap the series first. So if I go in and say, okay, I think UC Santa Barbara is going to lose the series, but they win game one, well, now sticking with that, I think they're going to lose game two and game three. Now, vice versa, if I think whatever team A is going to beat team B in a 3 game series and they win the first two, I'm probably not touching game three, even though I think because they've won it. They've won it already. I didn't think they would sweep. So I always go series first, and then from there, just however it plays out. If I pick Clemson and say they lost to Army yesterday, well, I know that I'm back in Clemson game two and game three. So that's the best advice I can give you there.
Okay, great answer. No, that's I'm excited. I know myself and Q are excited to have this spot to go into recapping some of the games on Friday night, giving some early our leans. Again, we want people in the chat. Post some of your leans for us for the day. Just excited to get after it. And it's like I said, after last night, I mean, crazy. But real quick, 2 things that I'm done. Number one, you must be married to just the most fantastic girl because it's Valentine's Day and you're covering college baseball. So she allowed you to go. So good job there, Matt. And one more thing, if you don't have this, the Diamond Report, go get it. You better I don't know what you need to do. And this, guys, if you don't have this and your wife, girlfriend, or whoever you're trying to get out of your house right now, look and say, if you want to buy me a gift, right here it is. You guys, Matt did a fantastic job. UQ, Noah Darling, Andrew, Monty, and Noah Rabinick. You guys just did a fantastic job. The quality of this and the information is just top notch.
Well, thank you very much. It is great. I did miss all the comments because I was rocking full screen on my laptop. The dogs were barking yesterday. Yes, they were. ECU was awful with runners in scoring position. Yesterday was wild. And unfortunately, Canes, Cats, Heat, Gators, like I always said, pretenders, they're dead. RIP Q. Clemson, only team with 34 scholarships, only team in the ACC. I mean, they got the win. But they didn't look great. Aiden Canuck kind of looks the same as he has been. And you really wanted to see him step up and become that ace. But, a 3-2 win over Army, I guess you'll take it. A win's a win's a win.
Yeah, and, another one I wrote down, Matt, was so many people are so high on Mississippi State with the new coach and just the tradition and the facilities. 6-5 over Hofstra. And I wrote down the 6 through 10 hitters 0 for 13. So, game one. I'm not saying stretch
Shake
out,
off the rust. Go win games today. Season's fine.
Yes.
I tell you right now, though, if Arkansas loses to TCU tonight, it will be full-blown panic mode by the Arkansas Razorback fan. Smitty, how do I get one of those hats? Sorry, I was trying to read and finish and got sidetracked. I have a couple if you're in Arlington.
I didn't see who the name was, but I was going to say, you got the right guy.
Yeah, X Hazard 01.
Yep.
I have about 3 of them left. We have these too.
I have 1. So, do me a favor. Shoot me a DM at Smitty Bucks, and I'll go check the size, and we can maybe make that work, and I will I'll send it to you.
Yeah, we're working on a merch line right now with College Baseball Central, overhauling that website, adding a lot of new features. this is really only just the beginning. And I know I've joked and we had some technical difficulties to start the show, but things will run much smoother. I'm not even normally the person that's supposed to be on here Saturday mornings. That's not my cup of tea. I enjoy sleep, unlike these crazy guys on the East Coast. But for Matt and Smitty, this has been First Pitch Live, and we appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next time.